Good morning. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the first ever, the inaugural Real Foundations live event. Really appreciate everyone taking the time out of your day to join us under, strange circumstances, strange conditions, but really appreciate everyone being here. Got a lot to talk about today. We are focused on what we're calling the modern digital workplace. So we'll talk about kind of what that means to us, what our definition of that is. But I think fundamentally, what we think about when we say those words, it's really a new way of working independently from a traditional office, and really kind of expanding our picture of what a workplace really is. So, as part of introductions, my name is Dylan Ray. I'm one of the principals at Real Foundations, part of the leadership team. I head up our home building management consulting group out of Southern California. So just a quick background on our firm for anyone that isn't familiar. So we are entering our 20th year this year. So we're a management consulting firm that's focused really exclusively only on the real estate industry, all the way from home building, owner operator, multifamily, development, construction, investment services, and corporate occupier. So again, for anyone that knows us, our focus is on both management consulting and managed services. So the concept of the modern digital workplace really is fundamental to our work, and it's really grown in importance over the years. And so we really wanted to bring it to the forefront today and talk about it in a little more detail. So, again, thank you for joining us today. A big thank you to our clients and partners who have joined us today. We have representatives from KB Home, Trinitas Ventures, Southern California Edison, and Fogelman Properties. So we'll make some further introductions here as we go along. So, what's our goal for today? So I think fundamentally we want to inform our clients and our potential clients, our listeners, our watchers, how to get work done in this new way of working in what we call the modern digital workplace. So how is it different from what we've seen and done and operated in the past? So, I think part of having the discussion with our clients is, how do we actually use their experiences to really get information out there about, what are some quick tips that could help people start working in this way more quickly? How do you expand your knowledge of what tools may be out there? And then also just to provide some real world, examples of how we've helped clients work over distance in the past. So, again, we're using these terminologies. How do we define what modern digital workplace really is, and why is it critical for our clients in real estate, really, now more than ever? So I think if we applied just a straight definition to this term, what would it be? So we define it as a collection of tools and ways of working, leveraging social collaboration techniques and the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, which really turns any place we are into a place where work gets done. All right, so from our perspective, we've been at the forefront of using these types of tools for as long as I can remember, for at least a decade or more. So we started out using SharePoint in a little bit of a renegade fashion. We had a variety of tools that were part of our tool set. We had really kind of a best of breed approach where at the time there was a bit of a mismatch out there where some of the tools worked well. We were able to bolt on some things from other vendors at different times, really trying to figure out how do we make the tool set work the best way it can for us. And I think really what we wanted to see from Microsoft was really a unified vision where the bits and the components really started to work together in a more cohesive way. And I think what we've seen over the last 5 years or so, and especially in the last 2 to 3 years, is that vision is really starting to come together. So I think that from our perspective, we've gone all in. So from Teams to SharePoint to all the collaboration tools that Microsoft has offered, we've seen great results with it, and we really, as I said, made it a part of our everyday work. and part of our project delivery from beginning to end. So, I think that what's really driving this for us, it's not simply the availability of tools. Obviously, the software is just one thing. I think what we're seeing here, obviously the last month or so, we've been living in some pretty interesting times, but I think the idea of the modern digital workplace has really been pushed to the forefront in ways that even we never expected. Because, once we're in a more quote unquote normal situation, we believe people, they're going to want to work somewhere besides home. They're going to work in other locations, they're going to work back in their offices, but they're going to work in multiple places. So, it's an interesting opportunity from a real estate perspective in terms of how different products get built, how the details of each development may be altered in terms of where do workplaces and workspaces need to be made available. But I think once people are able to relocate and be out as we were just a few short weeks and months ago, people are really going to utilize more places than they ever have before. So I think the one of the biggest takeaways from our perspective is no matter where you are physically, the modern digital workplace follows you. So in terms of having mobile devices, having desktop devices, web-enabled devices, we're seeing more and more of all those components being interconnected. So really being able to, turn any place that you are in into some type of workplace for you. So that's really the point of today's discussion. That's really kind of how we see the world changing. So, we brought together 4 of our clients that are really pushing towards the same ecosystem and the same vision, which again is newly minted by Microsoft, the M365 platform. It's what's great about Microsoft. You get used to one naming convention and it changes on you. But I think the interesting thing for today is, we've got 4 different clients that have taken 4 different paths to get there, and they're all on different points in their journey. So, as I said before, we're all learning. We have worked with these tools for a very long time, and the good news is they continue to evolve. There's new, pieces of functionality that become available to us. Even what we're working on today in terms of the live event, this technology, this platform has not been around very long either. So, we're seeing some great evolution in the capabilities. And we're excited about what we're seeing and what the possibilities are for putting this into use. But again, for each one of us that is a early mover in all of this, we do take some risks and some chances. Some things may not work perfectly, but the good news is we're still continuing to see a great amount of dedication from software vendors and our partners to work together to make sure that this all works as it should, right? So again, if you're in this process, you're thinking about this process, you're thinking about making changes, you're attending this live event today, you have no idea how to get started, hopefully today will give you some great insights into how some of our clients went through this journey. And again, if you have no idea how to get started, then contact us. We'd be happy to have just a conversation in terms of, what's been our experience in the best way to at least get over that first obstacle and get the process started. So, with that, again, as a way of introductions, we do have 4 of our clients with us today. First is Lisa Swinnerton, who is the GM and Director at Southern California Edison. We have Greg Moore, who's the VP and Chief Information Officer at KB Home. Melissa Smith, the Chief Administrative Officer of Fogelman Properties. And Lauren King, who's the CEO and co-founder of Trinitas Ventures. So again, just to recap, our goal today is to learn more about each of these companies, hear about their experience in this journey, what were their reasoning for really going down this road, where have they found value in this experience, but also what pitfalls have they seen, what kind of learning moments have they experienced, because as we all know, taking on these types of platforms, these types of initiatives, there's a lot of things that can go wrong and things that have to be overcome. So again, thank you for joining us today. And again, our goal is to get through each one of these discussions, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. So with that, Lisa, I will hand it over to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel. We've been on this journey for a little bit, maybe not as long as you have. I'm actually the general manager of Edison Carrier Solutions, a telecom business inside the electric utility. Our business involves two components. One is our tower business, the other is our fiber business. The tower business is obviously more real estate oriented. We lease space on our towers to wireless carriers. And then we also have a fiber business where we move digital traffic throughout the LA Metro. So really connecting individuals, actually mostly businesses and wholesale carriers. We don't do residential, but connecting and moving their traffic across the LA Metro. We've been in business for 22 years. I am inside the utility. So our business unit is actually inside an investor-owned utility, 5 million customers, a 55,000 square mile territory. So it's a big utility. And what really prompted me to kind of get to what prompted me was a few years ago, we started a very large expansion of our business. So that included expanding our fiber network, expanding our service offerings, and then also expanding our customer base, going to a lot more enterprises to bring fiber to them. We do not do residential, we do business only and wholesale. So with that, I reached out to Chris Shada. He's been at Real Foundation, obviously one of the founders there. Chris and I worked together for about 5 or 6 years at Kenneth Leventhal back in the 1990s. So I knew his background on systems. We'd talked over the years, and I talked to him about collaboration tools that we might think about. We were looking at Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, some other tools. As part of that conversation Chris and I had, he started to mention the Microsoft products. Well, I work for a utility. Cybersecurity is a very high priority. So when we started having more conversations, his focus on security, my company's focus on security, Microsoft became a natural area for me to look at. And so he mentioned some of the tools, the Yammer, the OneNote, of which I wasn't using. So I'll tell you, a year and a half ago, I saw Yammer more as a social chatting area, not really as a critical tool to get work done. But after my conversation with Chris, I started setting up private Yammer groups. I've got a team of about 100. 70 of those are employees. So I started setting up Yammer groups with my team and using OneNote, also OneDrive. And I started to discover, and I had about 5 or 6 folks on my team that started to kind of jump in and get excited about this. We were chatting, sharing some content, but at the same time, knowing that Skype was going to go and be replaced by Microsoft Teams, I knew eventually we were going to get to Microsoft Teams. So with that information, I went to our IT team and said, how do we get in Microsoft Teams right away? And there was an early adopter program at Edison. So they had about 1,000 employees. It's up to 1,500 now. We have over 13,000 employees at Edison. So they allowed us to go in with my entire team of employees a year ago. And how did I get there? What are some of the things that we did to evolve it? Well, first, I just started setting up teams. I moved out of the Yammer groups, but we started with the chat. And then we started setting up some teams. I wasn't forcing it, but I was telling people this is where we need to go. And I think it's a good tool. And then I started to really be able to demonstrate how working in email is not the right way to do collaboration. It's fragmented, it's confusing, you're losing conversations, you're spending a lot more time. So I really started to kind of demonstrate that's not working. Then I took a new step. If somebody needed me to approve something, to provide input, to sign off on a PO, make a decision, I told them to talk to me in chat. And that included any level. It could be someone that was an accountant, someone that was out working in the field. If they needed something, please use the chat and stay out of email. So started changing some patterns that way. Then finally, back in November, we set up a whole ECS team room. And we did that because the employees, with all the change, were feeling frustrated. They didn't have enough information. They weren't clear on our current strategy. They weren't clear on our goals. Are we tracking against them? And despite all the efforts you make to try to communicate, there's still going to be pockets in the organization that still have questions or need to see the data in different ways. So we set up a full team room that had all the channels put in there that really captured our guiding principles of our business, which was safety, work environment, our mission, strategy, and vision, our goals, how we're set up, the system implementations, All these were separate channels. So if you were new to my team or you'd been on my team, you literally could spend a few hours in there and know everything for the most part that was going on. That started to also create some dialogue, people asking questions when they started seeing things. So you asked for some kind of unique things we did. Right the night before we pushed it, we committed to push out that team on, I think it was November 1st or 2nd week, and we were down to the 11th hour, and I saw an error in one of the wikis. So we'd set up a wiki with some content about our goals. And I saw that, sorry, I need to stretch right now, I'm being reminded. Anyway, they told us that one of our goals, they had a question with it, and in the wiki, and I said, oh, so I looked at it and there was a typo, and I thought, you know what, I did a screenshot, I'm too tired, I'm going to push it out. So I actually pushed out the team. The next day I set up a contest. I went over to Starbucks, bought 5 Starbucks $5 coffee cards, and I said, anyone that finds an error will get a $5 Starbucks card. And I had folks from my accounting, my engineering, my construction, and my sales team. Somebody raced in there, and they not only found the 5 errors, but they found a few more. So that was really kind of getting them familiar of how to go into the chat, find information there, how to go into the files, and then how to get into the wiki. So I continue to do that. Just so you know, I'll put some new content in. I'll ask them to describe what they learned about a new initiative that we rolled out. Where are we with a system implementation? So they had to kind of think about where to find the data. It is extremely active. I can go look at the data analytics today and see who's in there. When we push content, how many people are in there looking. It's just amazing the amount of information we have. So with that, that's really one of the main things that I did to start pushing it out there. Then about 3 to 4 months ago, I said, okay, that's where you need to be. We need to be in teams. I don't want to be having conversations with my direct reports and others in email. Now, I'll tell you, as much as I've been pushing this, I myself slip back to email all the time. So we're trying to really be disciplined in what we do. We do get a lot of external emails that come in, so we have to respond to it. Another area that I wanted to share with you is kind of some examples. And, you know, one of the main things that I saw was we had so many things happening. As you can imagine, as an electric utility that also has a telecom business in there, the community is very dependent, especially in the LA Metro and everywhere, on our power and our communication capability. So with that being said, we're getting tremendous amount of notifications. We are regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as the Federal Communication Commission and other regulatory agencies throughout California. So we started getting a notice about 2 weeks ago. On a Tuesday, we were notified that we needed to provide some information about the broadband internet we provide to businesses. We need to clarify what that service is. Then we need to give notifications on escalations. Who do people go to if their internet is down? They were going to publish this on their website, and it was become public. So it was a very important thing. It caused a lot of angst across my legal and regulatory team because it came in externally. So they reached out to my group and said, okay, I need some answers. So they invited a couple people on my team, but then I needed a technical expert. So I added someone else in the email. Then I caught somebody else. Then I had to bring someone else from IT in. Pretty soon you have an email that was 4, that is a confusing email that has 8 or 9 people in it. We're getting lost. We're not solving problems. Side calls are going on. The attorney and regulatory are not happy. So it was just chaotic. So it was due Friday. Friday morning, I literally called a timeout. I said, lift this conversation out of here, put it in our teams, because 7 of the people that have to respond to it are in teams. So we put it into a chat, which we labeled COVID-19 data request due today. We sent it out as urgent, and we said, we need your feedback. In addition to that, the attorney was frustrated. I lifted it out and I said, I put the full email into the files section. So you see it, it's posted in the chat, you can find it. I recognize she did not have access because I was an organizer, she didn't have access. So what I did is said, Gloria, let me show you my screen. So I showed the screen and she started seeing the chats occur. I said, you know, Gloria has this question, can you respond? In 1 minute, she had 3 or 4 responses across SCE. These folks are not working in front of me, and obviously today they're not working around me at all, but there are different departments across the company. She was so shocked to see how that was happening. So what took 3.5 days was consolidated into a really clear chat group, and collaboration occurred. And in less than an hour, we had a response. So the only way, and I knew it would get done because it had to get done, is we were going to pull everyone offline for an hour, force them into a conference call, and work it through that way. But instead, our teams, which are trying to keep the network up, manage all the other things they've got to get done, were able to come in, provide their comments. I'd send an urgent email, an urgent chat to let them know you have to go in right now. And everybody was on alert and getting it done. So that was an example. I have many others that are occurring right now, but those are some that I think have just been incredible. With respect to what's happening since we've gone into, this whole, starting, I think it was March 13th, about 1 o'clock, we told everybody you need to clear out, your stuff you need. You're going to be working at home. Take your computer, whatever you need. We prefer you don't come back. We want you to be safe. So starting on Monday, you're working from home, and we'll let you know how long. We thought it was 3 weeks, but obviously it's longer. With that being said, that we didn't miss a beat. We have been operating very seamlessly. We're all in teams. We've been in it for a year, but really we forced it over the last 6 months. And I think we're not missing any dates. We've actually had situations where we've gotten extensions. We said, get it done now. We've got networks to run, construction to finish when we can. And so therefore, we have continued to operate in here. It's a game changer. It has literally transformed our business. And the main tool, I will tell you, has been Microsoft Teams for our company. Edison overall has now seen the value of it. While they were looking to really adopt it probably in 2021, I would bet in the next 60 days, we're going to see the rest of our 12,000 employees have the opportunity to get access and move in there pretty quickly. So very grateful. And I really want to do a shout out to Chris, Shada, one of the founders. We've known each other for a long time, but that was an extremely beneficial thing to me for him to kind of introduce me to it. So we got ready for where we are today. So thank you.
Fantastic. A couple of interesting things you said there. First about email. I would say me personally, the volume of email that I actually utilize day to day is probably down by half. And I actually get annoyed now when I'll be in a chat interactively, and then suddenly an email will come through the back end. It's almost like, wow, like where'd that come from? You're out of the conversation now. You've changed for the dynamic. It's crazy to me how fast that behavior has changed for us as a company, where we prefer to keep things centralized so everyone can see the conversation. So I think that was a great point. The other thing you said about channels, I think that's the biggest thing for us, because we can bring people onto projects, give them a couple of hours, and they can trace through so much information so quickly without having to, read Word docs or have 100 emails forwarded to them. So it's really changed the way we work, for sure. And I think the last thing you said about, like, you called it a forced rollout. We did the same thing. We sort of said, this is the tool. Here it is. This is how we're going to work, and let's figure it out together. And in lieu of having some very structured training, that's how we went about doing it, and it worked great. It had growing pains for sure, but once people can see the value of it, it was dramatic. It's a dramatic change of behavior. So thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, we've got Greg Moore. So again, Greg is the VP and CIO at KB Home out of Los Angeles. Greg?
Can you hear me okay, Dylan?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, great. Well, good morning and good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. It's a great forum, RF. I really appreciate you guys putting this together. It's nice to share and collaborate, share our experiences, and really talk a little bit about the digital platform that we've all been using and what it's done for our business, especially in this time. I'm the VP and CIO for KB Home. KB Home is one of the largest and most recognized home builders in the U.S. We've been building for over 60 years here in the U.S. across 42 different markets, and we're headquartered in Los Angeles, and that's where I am now, not in my normal headquarters office, but in my home office. Digital transformation for KB has been going on for quite some time, but when you talk about the digital workplace and our teams and using the different tools that are available to us in a digital working environment, That has been a transformation that we started a number of years ago, but really has accelerated with the move to the cloud, with what started as virtualization and then cloud migration strategy for KB Home really turned into a digital workplace with Microsoft's move to the cloud as well with the Office 365 platform. So KB has always worked very closely with our business partners, whether it's extensive collaboration with our trade partners and our subcontractor base, our vendor supply chain, or the back office partners that help us innovate and operate more efficiently. We've enabled our teams with collaboration tools for a number of years. And through this migration to the Office 365 platform, not just the collaboration, but the tools that allow you to operate more effectively and efficiently, like SharePoint Online and OneDrive, the MS Office suite. And for us, the standard is Skype for Business for collaboration. We have been testing Teams. We have about 200 users on Teams right now and are going to be accelerating the rollout of Teams over the next few months. But Skype for Business has been the standard platform for us over the last 3 to 4 years. And we've been pretty pleased and pretty happy with the results. With the transition, I think, to the, I'm losing my video. Can you guys still hear me okay?
You're fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, please continue. Don't worry.
Okay,
Can see
no problem. I was losing my video there. Okay. Anyway, with the transition here to work from home, remote scenario for all of our company, it was a huge test for us, a test of really the capabilities that we've rolled out. And what we saw over the first, I'd say, 8 to 10 days was anywhere from a 5 to 8x, 500% to 800% increase in usage of Skype for Business. Skype meetings, Skype calls, Skype chat sessions, everything has increased 5, 6, 7 times normal volumes as we've moved from 2,100 people working in offices to 2,100 workers and all of our subcontractor base working remotely and still trying to connect and collaborate and conduct our business. And I think just the challenge for us initially was around bandwidth of local internet connections for individuals, but our VPN backbone as well. And once we got over the first couple of days of really pushing that VPN network capacity to where we needed it to be, the Skype platform being in the cloud has been, from a performance perspective, working great and handling the volumes that we've been putting at it, even to the tune of meetings, in the hundreds of people that some of our sales groups have been conducting. And performance has been excellent because really we haven't had to rely on our own infrastructure. We've been able to rely on the Azure platform to power that. So a couple of the things that we've seen, one of the biggest benefits in the digital workplace that we have now is this concept of presence and being able to see and check the availability of key people that you interact with. It used to be you'd send that email, you'd wait for a response, you'd hope maybe you gave them a call and you got a voicemail, you didn't know if they checked it. With the concept now of presence and being able to see if somebody's online, are they available? Can I connect with them right now? Can I just send them an IM and chat with them? Those types of interactions are more real time and current and are really more valuable because that waiting game of did they get my message or not really isn't even a question. It's just a matter of, do you have the time right now, or is there a better time? Let's set it up, and you can communicate real time with that person. I think we have a very diverse workforce, and we're spread across the country. And we also have a subcontractor base that operates in a way. It's, you know, on-site management, construction. We're residential home builder, being in contact with our subs, on a regular basis and understanding what's happening out on the job sites is critical. And the Skype for Business app really connects people on their mobile devices and allows us to conduct business out on job sites and understand what's going on, and even view through you know, the camera on their phone exactly what's happening on a job site. And that's been super powerful for our people to be able to really connect and talk with somebody on a job site in real time and see what's happening. And the Skype for Business app has been a huge beneficiary for us in doing that. We're looking forward to Teams as well, getting that completely rolled out. We think there's some opportunities, as you've heard from others this morning, as well as from Real Foundations. The Teams platform is something that is very powerful and adds to the things and builds on what Skype already had in place. I think one of the big things that our executives really didn't understand too going into the pandemic that we're faced with now was, could people really be effective and efficient? Do they really have the tools and capabilities to connect and do what they need to do from a home office outside of our physical office? And our culture, I think, is shifting. I think we're seeing this month, and we'll see when we get back, as Dylan said, when we go back to the offices, I think the paradigm shift is in progress here, where our executives are going to believe in the fact that people can work from a remote location, from a home office, and be productive, be effective, be efficient, deliver the value and do what they need to do. And they don't have to be sitting physically in that office, you know, with everybody together in that same office. One of the things as well that has been going on the IT side, we've had a number of big engagements. RF's been a huge partner of ours for many years, and we've had some big transformational projects that have been going on, multi-year projects. And Real Foundations, the team there, along with partners with Microsoft, have been working on project teams in a collaborative way for multi-year project. And when we do travel, it's really around certain testing events and conversion or cutover events that need to happen on site with people and delivering training and things like that. But even those things are going to be tested here, I think, in the months to come. But our project team with Real Foundations really hasn't skipped a beat. They've been operating under the same cadence. For them, using the Teams and SharePoint Online as the core collaborative tools for the project, they've really been able to continue operating, continue work, continue our progress day in and day out at the same pace that we were at 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. And that's really a testament to kind of the digital workplace and the tools that we have. Gotta get my light to stay on here. It's really the tools that we have and the way we work really is akin to being able to do those things remote in a way that we've never been able to do that before. So really hats off to RF, our partners, and also to Microsoft for really giving us the tools that we need. I think I'd probably just close here, John and Dylan. From my perspective, you know, change is always difficult, but using new technology to enable the collaboration and sharing and teamwork is kind of a basic requirement these days. So if you can't provide this for your workforce and you don't put tools like this in place, you're going to be quickly falling behind. So with that, I'll turn it back to you guys for any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. And it is interesting. You think about when we started our work with KB Home at this time around 5 years ago, how far we've come in terms of using these tools and working between, you know, at any given time, 5 different offices across the country. So a lot of success there. Really appreciate the feedback. Okay, so let's
Thanks,
move
Dylan.
on.
Yes, it's been a great collaborative effort with our project teams, and you're right. These tools were in a different place 5 years ago, and they've grown, and we've grown with them. And our project team's the beneficiary because they operate, as we're seeing now, seamlessly with the digital workplace that we've put in place for them.
Absolutely, agreed. All right, sir. So let's go on to Lauren King. So Lauren is the CEO and co-founder of Trinitas Ventures.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I am co-founder and CEO of Trinitas Ventures, as was mentioned during the introductions. We are an investor, developer, builder, and manager of university-centric real estate focused on student housing and mixed-use development near Tier 1 university campuses throughout the U.S. We have development projects, assets, and personnel located from coast to coast. We are developing as far northwest as Washington State in Pullman and as far southeast as USC in Columbia, South Carolina. And being an Indiana-based company, we have plenty going on in the Midwest as well. We've developed almost $1 billion of real estate projects in our history and are on track to develop another $1 billion over the next 3 years, assuming the coronavirus doesn't derail our plans. We have about 125 employees. Half are based in our Lafayette headquarters, Lafayette, Indiana, and in our Indianapolis and Chicago offices. The balance of our corporate staff are remote or field staff in our property management and construction divisions. 2 to 3 years ago, we began working with Real Foundations to assist us with strategic planning. At the time, we were facing a host of challenges related to our organizational growth. We were working to scale our business and were running into obstacles. During our strategic planning, we concluded that the informal systems and practices that had worked so well for us in the past when we were small were not scaling. We determined that we needed to do 3 things. First, we needed to clearly define our teams, the processes, practices, and responsibilities that had historically worked extremely well, but had been informally handled around the conference room table or water cooler. Second, we needed to figure out how to manage all of the communication and coordination for multidisciplinary project teams that were scattered all around the country and constantly traveling. And third, we needed to create an environment of transparency and accountability that would ultimately facilitate greater empowerment of our team members. Essentially, we were striving for operational excellence as we scaled. The needed changes, the needed changes would require massive organizational change. We had to change our entire organizational culture and practices. We had to figure out how to get business knowledge and processes from the heads of our senior team into the heads of our new project leaders and teams and empower and equip them to make good decisions. Further, we had to break down some silos that had cropped up due to collaboration, frustrations, and create a true environment of teamwork across departments and divisions. So that is the context and backdrop for the day that David Stanford said to me, "You guys need to be using Teams," and proceeded to tell me about how RF was pioneering the use of both Teams and Yammer. I had not heard of either software. I was honestly probably only half listening until he mentioned what it could do to reduce the volume of my emails to my inbox. As some of our other speakers have mentioned, if you look back at my annual personal strategic plans and goals, every one of them from 2010 to 2018 had a goal and a strategy for how to deal with the insane volume of daily emails I receive. And I don't think I'm unique. I used to spend hours daily just reading emails to determine if it warranted any response from me, and spent countless hours filing emails for future potential retrieval that would be needed 1% of the time. I constantly was failing to manage my email volume, was getting behind, and important emails were getting buried deep in my inbox. So I turned to David when he mentioned Teams, and I said, you had me at fewer emails. Granted, there were a dozen other key advantages that were important to us, but streamlining communication was central. After an introductory presentation of Teams and Yammer, we decided to implement both very quickly with very little structure or planning, because we believed that both tools were relatively intuitive. I think our IT team had about a week to plan and set some very basic rules and Q&A. The implementation went very smoothly. We rolled out Teams for all projects and strategic initiatives and rolled out Yammer for general corporate communication. Our use of Teams took off very quickly. At first, there was a bit of hesitancy about the huge increase in transparency. But very quickly, the value of teammates being able to weigh in on matters that were not previously visible to them became apparent. The increased transparency was no longer seen as a risk, but as an asset because it enabled staff to tap the knowledge and experience of their teammates. Collaboration and teamwork skyrocketed, engagement and job satisfaction skyrocketed, silos were busted, communication increased, and problems were getting solved, especially by junior staff. That being said, Teams alone is not a silver bullet. We have made tremendous progress overcoming our obstacles to success. The improvements I have witnessed across the board have been astounding, and Teams has been a key part of it. But I think it worked so well for us because it was coupled with two other key ingredients. First, I had the complete buy-in to our strategic plan and the needed changes for my senior team, in large part because of the artful way that RF led our strategic planning. This buy-in was critical as each of my executive team members was out championing the needed changes, both culturally and Microsoft Teams. Second, shortly after the implementation of Teams, we coupled it with a company-wide book study. Yes, we did a book study of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. We eventually incorporated the key principles of extreme ownership into our core values, which principles underscored the cultural, leadership, and teamwork disciplines and habits we needed, which Microsoft Teams would support. Our recipe for success has been this coupling of extreme ownership culture, of effective leadership, teamwork, and collaboration with the tool of Microsoft Teams. So since this initial rollout, we haven't had to add much more structure or rules to our staff use of Teams. We did create some additional structure for consistency around file storage organization, but that's about it. We currently are abandoning Yammer and transitioning the corporate communication from Yammer, the general corporate communication from Yammer into Microsoft Teams. As staff feedback indicated, they desired to have fewer media channels to monitor. And we continue to find more ways to leverage Teams. We do our corporate calls and quarterly calls through Teams using the same tool being used for today's session. The embrace of Teams was measured in weeks, not months. And in the subsequent 2 years, we had become so accustomed to it that often staff will attend meetings through Teams even when they're in the office and just down the hallway from the physical meeting location. So how did this support our transition for coronavirus? Well, as the coronavirus continued to spread in the first week of March, we decided to test our entire corporate team working remote on around March 12th and 13th. Our IT team had just a few days notice of the desired test, as we were responding to increasing concerns in real time. We had no idea when we sent staff home on the 12th and 13th that they would not return to the office. The remote test went smoothly. The coronavirus news continued to get worse, and we made the decision to tell staff to simply stay home. Our 2-day remote working test seamlessly turned into a permanent solution. Teams as a tool and our use of it as part of our business practices and discipline was a huge part of why our transition has been so smooth. Team facilitates our regular communication, our collaboration, and our video conferencing. The video conferencing is so smooth that most of our staff think it is almost as good as being face-to-face. Some would even say it's better. We have found that the primary thing we are missing is the water cooler and unplanned casual conversations that happen in an office environment. And so I've been encouraging all of our staff, from our senior leaders to our managers and entry-level staff, to chat, email, call, or whatever, to ensure that those types of interactions continue to occur. Teams is helpful for those items too, as the chat and call features make those very easy. In closing, I feel very blessed to have implemented Teams 2 years ago. While we are certainly facing COVID-related challenges, we are not dealing with problems related to a remote workforce. I honestly do not think we have missed a beat, and in fact, in some ways, I believe our team is more efficient in the current environment.
Great, Lauren. Thanks so much. A lot of great information there, and really great to hear, in terms of diving in and making really changes from a cultural perspective, that it's been really successful for you. Okay, so I know we're a little bit short on time. Let's move on to Melissa Smith, the Chief Administrative Officer for Fogelman Properties. Melissa.
Good morning, good afternoon. So technology is wonderful when it works, right? I apologize about my system reboot right before I went live a few minutes ago. I want to echo a lot of the things that folks have said today. It's interesting. We're probably the baby on this panel of our adoption and implementation of Teams and different technologies that allow us to be remote. But the pandemic has certainly helped. We did start looking at it 4 years ago. We actually had Real Foundations do a technology review of our company. You have to understand, we are a property management company, so all multifamily. A good part of it is fee, and we're 57 years old, family owned, and one of our mantras is that we don't want to be on the bleeding end of technology. I wouldn't even say we're on the cutting edge of technology. I think our knife is more like a butter knife, and so pretty dull, just trying to keep up but not get too far ahead of ourselves. So when we did that technology review with Real Foundations 4 years ago, they said, you all have to start thinking about getting off of these servers that you have housed here. You have to start looking at moving into the cloud and different collaboration tools. And so that really drove what we are thinking about. And more, and I think everyone on this panel has said it, it was all about the email. And so for us, it wasn't even cutting down on email because everybody in our company lives and breathes it, but it was about the business continuity of email. And so when you have Outlook locally stored on your networks, you would have glitches, and that was an issue for us. So our first step into it was moving to the Office 365 platform, but really for the business continuity of email. And then we started looking at rolling out Office 365 in the Teams environment. First corporately, we have 75 corporate associates and then another 600 on-site properties. And we were gung-ho. Again, I mean, I wish I could tell you that we were as strategic as the rest of the panel is, and kudos to all of you, but we just don't always operate that way. But we do, when we jump in, we jump in. And so we wanted to roll out Office 365 and Teams, and we developed a full day of training, and we brought our corporate associates in, and we too had blessings from leadership down. We were all pushing it very hard, and we had folks sit in on 8 hours of training, and we went through emails, Teams, chat, video, channels, project management, widgets, apps, Yammer. And let me just tell you, that's not the best way to handle this process. But we tried it, and it was fun, and everybody went out really excited about all the cool things that we could do. And we had some great chats, and we had a few video calls and lots of GIFs floating around. But then slowly but surely, actually rapidly, everybody moved back into the email scenario. And we really said, we have to approach this differently. So, transparent about where we made some mistakes on this as well, and determine, how best to almost re-roll this out. We hadn't even hit our on-site associates. And so, KB Homes, praise to you with all the folks remotely and with different levels of, technology access and other. This was even just our corporate office. But we started with a smaller group, and we really started to see a lot of collaboration of the early adopters. So, not surprisingly, our systems team, our IT group, but it's still, even just being in the Office 365 environment, helped. It took away a lot of pain points for our IT group, so we could move slowly and still be okay with that. And it helped our travelers too. So talk about easy access from anywhere. So they were early adopters as well, those folks that were on the road all the time. But let's fast forward to the pandemic. And, where I said we just had some early adopters, we had some chats going on. So 3 weeks ago, we did the same as Lauren, really. We did 2 remote at-home tests. We're a very traditional office. There's a strong belief that if your bottom isn't in a seat, there must not be work being completed. And so, we were still very traditional. We had a few people working remotely, mostly our travelers. So for everyone, it was a big shift. So we did 2 days of tests, take your things home, let's try it. And on the 3rd day, we said, everyone stay home. It wasn't a mandated work at home yet, but close enough that we just said, let's just pull the trigger and let this happen. And I have to tell you that we did it really seamlessly. Few hiccups on mostly on folks having limited connectivity at home. But I would even say that in the Teams environment with video chats, it doesn't seem to weigh on the pull from the internet as much as some of the other things like GoToMeeting and Zoom that we have used previously. So that was really quick. We have been able to work at home. We've been able to do real work. I mean, the adoption has been amazing. So I agree, the email has gone down. Everybody is loving the chat and the video calls. I work remotely most of the time anyway. My team is based in Memphis, Tennessee. I live in North Carolina. So I've always embraced video calls in general, but now I can't get off of them because everybody loves the video call. So I've probably had more interaction since we've gone to a work at home state than I had previously when everybody was in the office. So that's been a benefit. But we've been able to get real work done. So we have a lot of reporting that we have to do from an accounting standpoint. We've been able to do it in a timely manner. We've had no hiccups. People have said, do you all not have a shelter at home yet? You guys are still working in the office. And I've been able to say, no, everybody's working remotely, and our clients haven't even noticed it, which I think is pretty phenomenal. We have used Teams to be able to get transactions done. So today, knock on wood, we'll close on our 2nd property in the last week where transactions have died for so many. And that's because we have figured out how to collaborate in Teams with the lenders, with the buyer, the seller. So it's internal and external. And we've had a lot of folks praising the way we're doing business. So proud of our team for that. And we've been able to keep major initiatives going. So one of our initiatives as a company was to work on an investment management technology this year. And we had already contracted with Real Foundations to step us through that process. And we were pretty amazed. Just as we went to shelter in place, just prior to that, we were supposed to have an on-site 3-day meeting to work through that project and understand it. And so we took Real Foundations remote with us. And I think it was a bit of a test on their end too, to say how effective can these meetings that we generally do on site be within a Teams video environment, sharing files in a channel that we set up. And I would tell you that on the Real Foundation side, Robert Choi led that directive, and myself and our SVP of Finance on our end, and he was not an early adopter, walked away from those meetings saying that they were more effective and efficient because it really kept us on task of agenda and time, and we were able to complete it, in my opinion, faster than we would have if we had folks on site. So it's kept us going across all parts of our business. What's next, you might ask? And for me, what's next is now best practices. So I think it was Lauren that mentioned, they were moving out of Yammer just because people said we have too many media outlets to check, and that's it. We have to now instruct people on where is the best place to do business, what belongs in email, what belongs in Yammer, what belongs in chat, what belongs in a channel, what belongs in a team. And so I'm excited about that, though, because now that we have the adoption of just working in a remote place in teams, it's going to be so much easier to then develop and share those best practices. The one other note that I'll make that we did not do well and are still working on is our file share. So we have not fully moved into SharePoint yet, and so we are utilizing OneDrive, we are sharing files in Teams, but we have lots of folks saying, wait, how do I get back to that file? Where is that file? So I would also recommend, if we were doing this again, to set up SharePoint first before we moved to that piece of it. But other than that, it's been great. I think, we'll never work the same again after the pandemic. We are coming up on an office renewal. I'm sure that negotiation is going to look very different, and the amount of space that we want is going to be very different. So it's going to be interesting to see on the other side of this.
Right. Well, thanks so much, Melissa. Interesting what you said about doing the future state design remotely. We all kind of held our breath. We knew it could be done, but we really had not done that before in whole. So it's fantastic to hear that it actually worked as expected.
Right. Better than expected, I would say.
Yeah, we all had faith, but until you actually do it, you're not quite sure, Okay, so we've got just a couple of minutes left. Really appreciate the feedback from all of our panelists so far. We did have a couple of questions come in that we wanted to at least give a little bit of time to let our panelists answer. The first one is for Greg Moore. So my employees don't have the right technology to work from home. So where should we start? And putting this to you, because obviously the last 3 weeks, your team has really had to focus on all the tactical stuff just to get people connected and working. So what are your thoughts?
It depends, I think, a little bit on what your back end looks like that you're trying to connect them to. We have been able to increase capacity on our VPN network to get to core KB systems behind our firewall, and really that increase in capacity was pretty simple working with our telecom partner CenturyLink. We've also implemented split tunneling on our VPN that enables us to channel the traffic going direct to the internet, not through our VPN network, for regular internet traffic when people are just going to other sites outside of our network. And if they need to get to KB applications behind the firewall, then we direct that traffic through the VPN network. Clearly, the tools that you need for somebody to be able to work at home and be effective, you need to have a desktop setup with a computer, monitor, you need a headset, you need the capability to be able to connect effectively. So sometimes that home connection might need to be upgraded as well for the individual to be able to be effective and efficient. If they're on the lowest bandwidth plan, they're going to struggle regardless of what you do on the back end. So giving them the right tools and enabling them starts with kind of the hardware they have in front of them, and then goes through your VPN network and how they connect to the back office systems.
And I just wanted to add to that, it's Melissa, far less technically, but we have 90 service directors working on our individual apartment communities, and as a quick help to get them started in this, we had them load the apps, the team apps on their phones, and have had great success just with chat and communicating, and them sending pictures and getting direction out on sites too. So far less technical, but has worked really well for us.
Yeah, absolutely. The apps on your mobile devices are fantastic. The other thing is just being able to migrate as possible from your core backend into the cloud enables that access. Really anywhere, anytime you have any kind of device that can connect to the internet, you can get to your core applications.
Right. Right. And I think from our perspective, it's interesting because the desktop's important, but we find ourselves using our phones and our tablets as much, if not more. So I think it's a testament to really practically seeing how those tools work for us. All right, thanks, Greg.
It depends on, for us, Dylan, your job role. We have many different roles in our company, and we're finding people using the tools very effectively. Even things like doing studio appointments in our design studio, where they typically, it's a very hands-on feel and experience to see what tile you're picking out and what shades you want to have and what door locks you need. We've been able to do those digitally and be able to conduct online studio appointments and selections with our customers because of the tools and the way you're enabled with both video and being able to display product information, things like that.
Right, absolutely. It's a whole new world.
Yep.
All right, so I know we're at the top of the hour. I think if we held a 2-hour session, we would likely use all that time as well. It's a great topic. There's a lot of great experiences we've been able to share. We do have some additional questions that have come through. We're going to post that Q&A on our website. And again, we're going to send out a follow-up email to everyone that's joined us today. And that'll have a link to our website, a link to a lot of these materials that we've been discussing, contact information for our team in case you want to reach any of us. But again, we believe in this platform. We believe in its importance in terms of how it fits into our project work, and it really has become something it's inherent. It's not something we add on. It's really how we work as a team. So I really want to extend my thanks to all of our clients that have joined us today. Appreciate the time you took to share your experience. And again, we also appreciate the relationship and the opportunity to continue working with each of you. So for everyone that's joined us today, thank you as well. Hopefully this has been valuable, and hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dylan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.